to learn about how you can take one chemical and change it up with other chemicals. And of course, this is kitchen chemistry is the name of it. So these are all chemicals that you can find around your house. So if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box. Everybody's muted for now, but at the very end, we'll stop the recording. And then if you have any questions or you want to watch me do something again, then we can do that. So I'm going to go back to this. So the main chemical that I'm going to be using actually comes from red cabbage. And this is called an anthocyanin. And those are water-soluble pigments that are, depending on their pH, may appear red, purple, or black, okay? So pH means possible hydrogen. You don't have that in every food, so you want to use foods that are red, purple, or black. So, of course, you have the red cabbage. These are beets. These are black soybeans. These are black beans, which you can get in a can. Of course, these are cherries, raspberries, black rice, which mostly wild rice is black. And of course, blueberries. And there are lots of other fruits and vegetables that are also these colors. So after you've watched what I've done today, then maybe you could look and see what you have in your kitchen and see if you can get kind of the same results, but with different fruits and vegetables. So I used mostly the red cabbage, but I also used another actually a root vegetable, which is called turmeric, because I wanted to show you how to make more colors, okay? So we're going to start off by watching a video on how I did this, and this one's kind of sped up. You will be getting a link to a longer, more informational video that kind of has the same process in it. But because this is very time consuming, it wasn't something that I could do live. So I'm going to, and hello, Lynn, good morning. We're going to go ahead, we've already gone ahead and get started. So I'm going to show you how I made the 2 dyes that I'm going to be showing you the process of this morning. Okay, so I'm going to do this, and I'm going to grab new share. All right, so this one doesn't have any sound, but here's the cabbage, and I'm pointing to that white part right there because I took that out. You probably want to ask a grown-up to help you cut this up. The more you chop it, the more of the anthocyanin that you can get out of the red cabbage. I used what's called a Dutch oven here, filled it about halfway. You can make smaller amounts if you want to. I wanted a lot of the purple color, so I cooked a lot. So I'm chopping up very, very small, and then I'm going to put all in the pot. And I did take out the center part, or the core, because obviously it's white, so there's not a lot of color in that one. So I'm going to put this in, and I'm going to boil it for about 30 minutes. You can see I'm still chopping. So I want to make sure that I have enough surface of the cabbage leaves in the water. All right, so here it is cooked for about 30 minutes. And you can see that a lot of the color has now leached out of the leaves. It has boiled away and is now in the water. So I'm going to check the color. Oh, and look what it made. Even though it's labeled as red cabbage, you actually get a purple dye. Okay. So the next color I wanted to make, because I wanted something else besides purple, and this is turmeric. And I used the fresh turmeric, which I found at the local store. And I'm going to take off the skin because just like with the cabbage, I want to make sure that there is enough surface of the turmeric in order to get plenty of color from it. I'm going to slice it up pretty small. I did use quite a bit because I wanted my yellow color to be nice and dark. All right, so I'm going to put that in there. And whoops, that didn't get all the way to the end. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that one and go back to my PowerPoint. All right, so, okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this and I'm going to move my webcam. So if you're worried about getting dizzy, I'm just going to cover that up so that you don't see the whole room moving. And here I have my dies. And I've made up quite a bit of the purple red cabbage dye. Okay. And then here is my turmeric, right? So I have two colors, but hey, I want more colors. So think about the color wheel. We have the primary colors, which are red, yellow, and blue. And then we have the secondary colors, which are green, orange, and purple, or violet, depending on which color wheel you're looking at. But violet and purple are actually the same colors. So I want to make more colors, okay? So anthocyanins are what we call pH dependent. They can change depending on what you mix with them, okay? So I'm actually going to go back to a different slide. I'm going to show you this one. All right, so this is called the pH scale. And you got lots of examples of what's an acid to neutral to a base, okay? So some of these obviously you wouldn't want to use because they're not very safe. But you've got baking soda, which is what I'm going to use today, hand soap, eggs. Of course, pure water is the most natural, as long as it doesn't have a lot of chemicals like chlorine or something in it. We have milk, coffee, tomato juice, lemon is what I'm also going to use. And another great acid is also vinegar, okay? So I'm going to stop sharing this and go back to my camera. Okay, so here's my turmeric. And then each one of these cups has the red cabbage dye in it, okay? So I have some baking soda. Baking soda is something you can find in your kitchen, okay? And I'm going to mix some baking soda in 1 cup of my red cabbage dye. I want you to kind of think about what do you think is going to happen. So remember, the base is the one that was on the right side of the scale. You know, it's different from the acid. So I'm going to take a little bit of this. I'm going to take 2, this is about 1/4 of a teaspoon. And I'm going to stir it up. And I'll hold it up because there's white underneath here and you can see. I'm going to grab a cup. I don't know if you can see, but what color is it? Okay, so when I mix baking soda in the red cabbage dye, I actually get a blue or a blue-green. Can you see that? So it went from being purple to being a blue-green. Okay, I'm going to get a little less than 1 cup so that you can see that contrast. All right, so now you can see the change a little bit better. So look how the baking soda changed that. So if I were a crafts person and I only had things in my kitchen and I wanted to dye some fabric or I wanted some colors to paint with, then I would need to know a little bit about chemistry and how that's going to change the different chemicals or things that I make, okay? So I'm gonna pour that back in there, a little bit more in here. All right, oops, that's okay. All right, so I'm actually going to put some more in here because we're going to do something with that in a little bit. I'm going to try to make this one a little bit more greenish blue because we're going to mix that in a little bit, okay? All right, so my next change is I'm going to use some lemon juice. Remember, the lemon juice was our asset. And I got my lemon juice directly from Lemons. You can buy real lemon, which comes in a bottle. It's a brand name. But I just squeeze it directly from the lemons, okay? And I'm going to put that on the side for a minute. All right, so we've got a purple, okay? And I'm going to add lemon juice to this. Ooh, did you see that change? What happened to it? Look at that. Kind of a reddish or pink color. So now look what I've got. Okay, so I've got my blue here. Okay, and I've got a red pink. And I still have my purple. Okay, so now I'm going to have some fun. All right, so I need, okay, so I have this. So I'm going to leave this one here. Okay, and I'm going to put some more of my blue color in here. Okay, so I want to make more colors. So I already have yellow. This is made from the turmeric. And by the way, you do not have to use a root turmeric. You can use turmeric from a can. And this is a powder. And your moms might have this in the kitchen. I liked using the root because the powder kind of made it kind of milky. So if you wanted to use a powder to make the dye, you want to make sure that you filter it like with a coffee filter. So that way you get out all of the little powder. That would be the turmeric. All right, so I've got this blue here, and I want to make this even more green. Okay, so thinking about the color wheel, what color would I need to mix to this to make it even more green? All right, so on the color wheel, green is between yellow and blue. Okay, so I'm going to take some of my turmeric and I'm going to mix this in here. I'm going to dump some out because it's easier to see when it's not quite so thick. And look, see the green? So this is different from the one that was in here. This one's a little bit more blue. Light up. There we go. So now we have a green and one that's still a little bit more blue. Okay, I already have my purple, I already have my yellow. So what would be another color that I would need? Well, we'd need orange. So I'm going to pull out some of this purple. And in order to make an orange, I can't mix, if I mix yellow with this purple, does anybody know what we would get? You can put an answer in the chat box and then we'll look at it later. Well, if you mix yellow with the purple, we'll actually get more of a brown. So I want to make this a little bit more red. So remember how I made this one? I mixed the acid with it, okay? So I'm going to take some of my lemon juice and I'm going to make this one red also. Okay. All right, so my color wheel, orange is between red and yellow, okay? So I'm going to take my yellow and I'm going to dump a little bit of this out. I'm going to take my yellow and I'm going to mix this in here. And yellow is a much lighter color than the red, so I'm going to have to add a little bit more to see if I can make this more orange than the original. Can you see there's a little bit of change? See how that's more orange? And look how many colors I have so far. Just by knowing a little bit about chemistry and color, I can make lots and lots of colors. So let's see what I have. So I have my color wheel. I have red. I'm going to put my blue up here. And then I have green, orange. I'm going to make that even more orange. I'm going to dump some of that out and add more of my yellow to it. All right. So I have all of these colors now just by mixing. Okay. Now, I'm always curious, and I know you guys are, and probably some of you are thinking, well, what would happen if I mixed some lemon juice with the turmeric? Is turmeric also a pH dependent chemical? So let's find out. So I'm going to put some turmeric in here, and let's see if we can change the turmeric. Okay, so if I add the acid to it, is it going to do anything? No, because it wasn't in that group that was red, purple, or orange, or red, purple, or blue. So you can't really change the color of the turmeric. You can use the turmeric to make lots of other colors. Okay, so let's see if anything would happen when I mixed it with baking soda. So here's some more turmeric. And you know what will happen? I had lemon juice in here. Now you can also, like I said, do the same thing with vinegar. You know what happens if you mix vinegar and baking soda, you get, you know, a volcano. So if you're using vinegar and you want to experiment by putting baking soda in it, it's probably not a very good idea because you'll get lots and lots of foam. All right, so I put a little bit of baking soda in there, stir it up, and it's not going to change the color of that turmeric. It just makes it a little bit more cloudy. All right, so learned a lot about making colors. We now have orange, we have green, we have a purple, okay. Dump a little bit out. We have our yellow, we have our red, not a real deep red, okay, but it is pretty good red. And then we have our blue. So look what you made just by starting out with 2 colors. So I had my yellow turmeric that I started with and my red cabbage color. Okay, so remember, in order to make the orange, I had to first make the purple red. Okay, in order to make the green, I had to first make the purple blue. All right, so I'm going to share my screen again and go back to this. All right, so the anthocyanin turns red, pink, and acids. So these would be acids. And you can look online for a pH scale and find out lots of other things that you could experiment after you make your red cabbage color, your dye. And what would happen if you added milk to it? What would happen if you added black coffee? These are all different acids. Of course, you can't put stomach acid in it. You could try it with vinegar. And then you could try a few of the things at the top. What would happen to your red cabbage if you added hand soap to it? Or I'd like to see what happened if you put an egg in it. Okay, I think that would be really a fun thing to try. Okay, so we've already made lots of colors. So here's our color wheel. So as I make the red, I already had the yellow. Yellow and red together make orange. Okay, blue and yellow. So I had to make a blue. I already had the yellow. I mixed them together to make the green. I already made the blue. I made the red, and I already had the purple. So the purple I started out with, which is a little bit different from the way I usually do a color wheel, but because the dye was already purple, then I could use those colors to make all the other colors. Okay, so let's think about what we can do with these. Well, let me show you some things that I did. Of course, as a craft person, mostly what you would use these types of colors for would be dyeing fabric. You would start with a white fabric. Cotton fabric is best. If you make these dark enough, you could also use them like watercolors on paper, but you'd have to use lots and lots of different layers. I actually have been making lots of masks, and I don't know if some people have been. So I took one of my masks and I tie-dyed it with some of the yellow and some of the purple. Okay, so you could take some fabric and put it in your dye, and I would suggest that you soak it overnight to give the fabric plenty of time to absorb the color. You want to use a natural fabric like cotton. So like polyester doesn't really absorb colors very well, not natural colors. Now chemical colors that they make in a factory are much different. All right, so I'm going to leave those in there to absorb the colors. And I'm going to add 2 more. So these, of course, just small strips. If you make a lot of dye, you could dye a larger piece of fabric. Or you could even tie-dye an old white t-shirt that you have. Okay, so I would leave these in overnight. And I would allow them to really soak up the dye, which is what I did with these pieces. So here's some strips that I've already experimented with to see what they would look like. So here's one that has kind of that blue color, okay? And here's one that's a little bit more orange. I like this color. I think this one looks really nice. All right. And here's another one that's a little bit lighter orange. Okay. This one was supposed to be the blue, but also picked up a little bit of that purple, which I thought looked really cool. And then this one was the yellow, but also picked up a little bit of that orange color. Just to compare, this is the white fabric that I started with. So you can see how the dyes work. They're not a really, really dark color. You have to be a real expert at dyeing with natural colors in order to make them darker. There's a lot more steps to it than just doing, you know, something simple like I've shown you. But here's like a piece of the turmeric. It's really nice and yellow. And then I had a larger piece of fabric that I used the purple dye from the red cabbage. All right. So those are some possibilities of what you could do with your dyes once you've made them all. Let's see how the ones I have in my cups, how they're already looking. So let's see, we've got the purple starting to get a little bit of color. Let's see how the green looks. Ooh, that's a pretty green. Look at that. That's really going to be nice and dark once it sits in there for a while. And look at that. Wow. Even just a little bit of time sitting in there. And of course the yellow, the turmeric makes a really, really strong color. This one's going to sit in there for a while. It'll get really, really dark. Then I have my blue. Okay. And then my orange. The orange is a little bit lighter. It's because I diluted it so much. Remember, I poured some out and put some in. So even though it looks pretty dark in the cup, it's actually pretty diluted in there. Okay. I'm going to dry my hands real quick. All right, so suppose you don't have any fabric at home and you want to make these dyes, you want to experiment with them, and you want to figure out what else can I do? Well, okay, here's my dyes. So you can see on the side all the different colors that I made. Okay, so I've got yellow, green, blue, there's my purple, supposed to be my purple, red, and then my orange. For fun, you could make rainbow noodles. You have to make sure that the dyes that you make, that you keep them clean. So you want to make your dye, maybe put in a bowl, then make your noodles, and then put your noodles in the bowl and see what you get. So you could have a rainbow colored spaghetti dinner. I think that would be kind of fun. So if you don't have any fabric, that you can dye, then you can try it with different things. You could try it with, you know, dropping it on pieces of bread. Maybe you could dye rice and have different colored rice for dinner. Because these dyes are all made from food, they're things that, they're food items that you already have in your kitchen, they're all safe to eat, okay? All right, so that's our 30 minutes, and I'm going to put up the last slide here, and I'm going to go ahead and ask if anybody has any questions.